Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Once again, it's takeover night. Tonight, one of my patrons, Mr. Mitch Goldstein, has offered and has produced content for my channel. I really appreciate it, Mitch. So this is a chance to see someone at the very beginning of their YouTube career, as this is the first video on his channel. I'll put a link to his channel up here, so don't forget to check it out. Hit subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and then when he starts producing stuff, you're going to hear about it. So Mitch, thanks again. Let's get on with it. Roll VT.
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Mitch and I'm a friend of Mr. Sensible. I have a brand new channel on here called WaySmarterThanThat, and Mr. Sensible asked me to do a favor for him while he's away gallivanting around with the Sensible family, and I'm going to do a debunking video for him today and provide him some content. And this is my first one, so please bear with me. I'm coming to you from this secret location somewhere in the middle of America, and we're going to talk today about gyroscopes. Now, I got to be honest with you, I don't even know who this guy is. I just picked this out because I like gyroscopes, and I always have, and I always will, and I always find them quite fascinating. And I always find it especially fascinating because they're one of the things that can be used to prove that the Earth is certainly not flat. So let's see what this anonymous person has to say.
Okay, so this video is a bit of a follow-up to my previous two videos on gyroscopic navigation and all of that, based on a comment that I just got, which just really blew me away. It's so simple, and yet it's...
Okay, so let's set the stage here. He got a comment on one of his videos, which I suppose is a miracle in and of itself, and he actually reads the comment to himself during the video. Still reading. Still reading.
If you were to just set the gyro in a gimbal base where it can move freely and then put it in motion with its axis in a vertical position, in the next 6 hours, when you see the axis slowly move to a horizontal position at the base as the base rotates with the globe Earth. If it doesn't, then the Earth is not a spinning ball.
If you had a gyroscope that was in a perfect frictionless gimbal and you waited 6 hours, you would watch it rotate. That's how it works. That's what a gyroscope is. Of course, the problem is there's no such thing as a perfect gyroscope. But let's listen some more.
Okay, so after taking a few seconds to let what he's saying absorb...
What is there to absorb? That's how gyroscopes work.
Because they don't ever talk about that. And you would think they would. I mean, right there in the film, he's saying that the gyroscope resists the pull of Earth. It does not stay in alignment with gravity or with the surface of the Earth, right? So that's when it goes into all the explanation of how the magnetic compass supposedly is what corrects it. And that's a whole nother thing, but I'll get into that in a minute.
So he starts talking about gyroscopic navigation, and the reason he does is because the footage that he's misrepresenting is from a 1960 U.S. Navy training video about gyroscopes. Fighter planes have come quite some way since 1960. That was 60 years ago. That was before I was born.
Modern high-performance aircraft require electric gyroscopic instruments.
Here's a picture of one. This is the F-11 Tiger. It was a carrier fighter. It had pretty sophisticated gyroscopic systems.
But it's totally true that if the gyroscope on the gimbal, when it's spun up fast enough, is going to resist the gravity of the Earth, you know, when any kind of vehicle is moving around the ball, right? It always has to be. They're talking about how it needs to be adjusted when a gyroscope is in a vehicle that moves around the Earth. But at the same time, the Earth is constantly moving.
Now, that's kind of disingenuous here because we all know the Earth doesn't rotate that way, and he's kind of playing with the video and cherry picking it and using the weird music. And let's see what he's driving at.
If you fired up a gyroscope, shouldn't you just see it doing all kinds of crazy things? I mean, shouldn't it just be not just moving 90 degrees over 6 hours, but it could be doing all kinds of motions because of all the different orbital things that are supposedly happening? But no, it stays in place, right? A magnetic compass doesn't point you directly at where the magnetic north is or the North Pole is. It only gives you it's basically a two-dimensional device.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there. I can tell you for a fact that gyroscopes can be used to prove that the Earth is round and rotating and a globe in space. And guess how I know?
In today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth.
Ring laser gyroscope is a very expensive gyroscope. It doesn't spin. It actually has lasers shoot light in opposite directions around the channel. And it uses actually Einstein's predicted effects to discover very, very slight traces of movement. And it is basically the tool that is used to prove that the Earth is moving.
But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift.
And by the way, that's a 15-degree drift per hour no matter where you are on the Earth, unless you are standing on top of either the North or the South Pole.
A 15 degree per hour drift.
So, I have a puzzler for flat earthers out there, because there's a real way to prove, a very easy, observable way to prove that the Earth is a sphere and is rotating. And that's Foucault's pendulum. The Foucault pendulum at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History has a 32-foot cable and weighs about 270 pounds. That would be a little under 10 meters and a little over 100 kilograms. The angular momentum of the pendulum maintains it in a single plane, much the same way a gyroscope's position is maintained by angular momentum. If you were to stand still, you would see the pendulum turn very, very slowly over the course of a day. Here you can see a ring of blocks around the pendulum. As the plane of the pendulum swings during the Earth's rotation, it will knock down the sequence of little blocks. This is absolute incontrovertible proof that the Earth is a moving sphere. But you can actually calculate, depending on what latitude you're at, the Foucault's pendulum will swing at a different rate. And if you had a Foucault's pendulum at the equator, it will not rotate. Its position will not change. It's also true that in the northern hemisphere, Foucault's pendulums turn clockwise, and in the southern hemisphere, they turn counterclockwise. Well, I really hope you enjoyed our little chat tonight. I want to leave you with this. First off, thank you, Mr. Sensible, for making this possible. And to the Flat Earth debunking community, remember to keep it real. Remember to be polite. Remember, it's not nice to bully bullies. And with that, I'll give it back to Mr. Sensible.
Thank you ever so much for that, Mitch. I really enjoyed it. I hope you all did too. As I said, don't forget, hit subscribe on Mitch's channel. The link will also be in the description below. I look forward to seeing you all again. But before I go, big thanks to my patrons. As always, massive thanks to all my patrons, including new patrons: Corpus Defectus, Tiffany Hall, Erebathron, Bardtail, Francis Chimenti, William Foley, Alice Vangstrom, John Roswell and TechBlog, and my very latest patron, Pyro Kitty Cat. Thank you all so very much.
Shut up and sit down.